I reposted what I posted the night that we drafted Terrion Arnold. It was a little tongue in cheek, but I said, y'all told me to let Brad Holmes cook. I said, and right now it's looking like mom's spaghetti. In parenthetical text, Eminem version. I said, I'm going to McDonald's. And I was talking about Terrion Arnold because I said a corner that runs a 4.5 is not a number one corner in the NFL. And everybody brought up Jalen Johnson. The lone exception, he ran a 4.58, and he's a number one corner. Every other number one corner runs a sub 4.4. I personally, I think Jalen Johnson was hurt when he ran the 4.58, but fine, whatever. He's the lone exception. Romeo Doubs ran right by Terrion Arnold for a 48-yard catch, and he had safety help. Yeah. This is why I said that. If Christian Watson was healthy, Romeo Doubs would be the third best receiver on that team. If Romeo Doubs played for Cincinnati, he'd be returning punts or he'd be on the practice squad. If you can't guard Romeo Doubs,
a number three
receiver, you're not a number one corner. And it's okay. Not being a number one corner doesn't mean you can't play in the NFL. I said I don't hate the pick. I said, but for where he picked him, that's usually where you would pick a number one corner in the first round.
Yeah.
Terrion Arnold is not a number one. He was playing slot corner at Alabama. He wasn't the number one corner there. Kool-Aid McKinstry was the number one corner there. But I digress. I'm like, he's just not a number one corner. That doesn't mean you can't play in the defensive backfield. He's just not a number one corner. You can't put him at the number one corner. He gonna look like Cam Sutton.
Yeah, you can't put him on number one.
Yeah, anymore. I'm like, you put him on Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson is gonna have 200 yards receiving. If you try to put him on an island, I'm like, who's the number one? I said, bro, if you put Sauce Gardner on Romeo Doubs, he's erasing Romeo Doubs. You put him on a milk carton. You won't hear from Romeo Doubs.
Not that night.
Jalen Ramsey, old Jalen Ramsey, this old version of Jalen Ramsey. You put old Jalen Ramsey on Romeo Doubs, it's over. Romeo Doubs won't be heard from. And I'm not knocking on Romeo Doubs either. I think he's a good number three receiver, but he's a number three.
Right.
That's why they drafted Matthew Golden in the first round. That's because they didn't have a number one receiver. So I'm not dishing on Terrion Arnold. I'm just saying that you're trying to make him into a number one.